So I thought it was about time that I gave my birth story. Labor pretty quick, like most of my labors after all these babies, but she did give me a little bit of run for my money. A 3-4, and then at my last doctor's appointment, I was dilated to a 5. And anyway, so I was dilated to a 5. I've had so many babies, I still don't normally dilate that far without being ready to go into labor. So really trying to avoid an induction. I did not want to be induced. I had a really bad experience with our 7th baby with Sawyer. So I was doing everything I could. So when I heard I was at a 5, I was like, thank God, because I had an awesome doctor. Because of my age and being high risk, they did not want me going past 39 weeks, but she gave me more time. I told her a lot of my babies like to come on their due date, so she gave me 1 day after my due date. She's smiling. And so I was bound and determined to get to my due date because I was going up and down our stairs sideways. We have a basement, and so it's very long, steep set of stairs. Oh, goodness. And so I was going up and down sideways. I walked, we have hills around our house, very steep hills, and so I was walking up and down the hills. I was doing the mile circuit, I was doing stretches, I was squatting, I was doing everything I could to get this labor going. And I've been doing it every day since my appointment on Wednesday, and I woke up and didn't go into labor. I woke up so mad. And so we were doing everything we could to get me into labor, and it wasn't working. My 9 and 6-year-old a bath, and I had ran really quick to their bedroom, so I don't like leaving them alone, obviously, and so I ran really quick to their bedroom to grab some clothes. When I was running out of their bedroom, I felt a gush. Like, if you've ever broke your water before, you know the amniotic fluid has a certain smell, and so I smelled it, and it smelled like amniotic fluid. I almost knew at that point that my water had broke, but because it was such a small amount, I don't know. I didn't tell anybody right away. I did tell my daughter when she got home, but I did not call my husband. I did not call the doctor. I just wanted to see what would happen. And so that was around, 1 in the afternoon. So throughout the day, every 30, 45 minutes, I would stop and because I would get another gush. This happened all throughout the day, probably 5 or 6 times. I called my doctor. I called my husband. The doctor said, what? No, it's okay. Thank you. So see how many times I have to restart this. So the doctor said, I think you need to head on into the hospital. And I said, I don't want to. Asked her, can you give me some more time to try and get labor going on its own? I'll give you till around 10 o'clock tonight. I'm here all night. I'm on call. But by 10 o'clock, if nothing's happened, I need you to come in. When I tell you I did everything in my power to get that labor going, I mean everything in my power to get that labor going. Thing had happened. I had a few painful contractions, but nothing crazy. A lot of Braxton Hicks, but nothing crazy. So when I got to the hospital and walked up to the labor and delivery desk, my doctor was sitting there, and the nurse was sitting there, and they said, we were just talking about you. And I was like, where is she? Because at this point, I was actually questioning whether it was my water or not, because I hadn't had a gush in a really long time, like hours. I also forgot to mention at my 39-week appointment that she also gave me a really good membrane sweep, and I had had bloody show for days after that. So they get me checked in, they get me strapped up to the monitors, baby looks good, not picking up very many contractions. So they do the test where they test if it's amniotic fluid or not. And at this point, I thought for sure we were going home. Nothing had been coming out of me since then, And so they put it stat, they rushed it. It's on my phone as soon as the doctor gets results as well. About 30 minutes later, my phone said, results are in, your results are in. So I clicked on it. And literally as soon as I read positive for amniotic fluid, my water had broke. The doctor walked in the door, and she's like, all I need to know is if you want an epidural or not. We're gonna get this labor going. And I was like, oh, you gotta be shitting me. I worked so hard to not be induced, and here I am, my water broke and I have to be induced. So anyways, I decide, hey, can you just break my water fully and maybe see if that'll get my labor going? So she went in there, but there was no water to break. So my water had definitely broke. There was a big hind water up above her. She was just so low in my pelvis that she was blocking the fluid from coming out. The Pitocin started, which I was fighting tooth and nail, and at this point I decided I do not want an epidural because I had such a bad experience with my epidural last time. It numbed the top of my thighs, but not my hoo-ha or my abdomen. So a lot of you don't know, but I've had 3 back surgeries, so epidurals are hit or miss with me. And so they started at a 2 and went up by 2 every 30 minutes. A little after midnight, probably like 12:15, and by the time we were at a 4, I was full on contracting, in pain, ready for an epidural. They called in the anesthesiologist to do my epidural, so it took a minute to get it in place. She had to pull it out and put it back in, pull it one side instead of sticking to the middle, and so she had to redo it a lot. But it took literally like 30 minutes, and by the end of that I was already fully dilated, ready to go. But the nurse said, let's give it some time to let your epidural fully kick in before we start pushing. So I'm trying to wait. I'm like, if anybody's ever known me, I will avoid pushing with everything in me. I hate it. It's the worst part. I don't get relief. I'm not like some moms where they're like, oh, it felt so much better to just push. Absolutely not. I can handle contractions. I cannot handle pushing. And so they were, it gave me about 15 minutes, but I had a full bladder, which was hurting. And so I asked for a catheter to get the pee out so that I could have some relief. And by the time they got the catheter in me, they knew it was time for me to push. There was no waiting anymore. So they get my legs up in the stirrups, and my doctor checks, and I have a little bit of a lip in my cervix, and so she says, I'm gonna stretch that out on your next contraction. Just don't push. That was horribly painful, but it worked. She got my cervix fully opened, and then she said, on your next contraction, we're gonna push. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. I literally looked at everybody and I said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I'm not ready. I don't want to do this. And they're like, I know. And I had warned my nurse ahead of time that I'm a big baby and I will try and crawl off the table when it comes to pushing. So I had 2 contractions, 3 pushes, and on my 3rd push, I lost control and I started, I can't do it. It hurts. And I tried to climb off the table. Somebody woke up. So at this point, I'm losing control. I'm crawling off the table, and I had this really awesome nurse. She was a travel nurse, so she'd seen some things, and she said, Katie, look at me. You can do this. And my doctor was, Katie, you got this. And I just closed my eyes and gave it everything I had, and out she came on that 3rd push. Hey! And she was born, came on my chest. Taylor and Mike were there to watch her. I couldn't believe she was actually a girl. You know, we have not had a girl in 18 years. It was an amazing labor. I didn't know. I know things didn't go the way I wanted them to, but it couldn't have been more perfect. And she came out and she had a little fluid on the lungs, so they had to clip the cord sooner than normal. But she was perfect. She was healthy, 7 pounds, 14 ounces, 20.5 inches long. My labor was about 2 hours long from start to finish, being induced. It was a really amazing moment and perfect ending to us having babies. We're done. We are for sure done. We got another little girl. I know God blessed us with that, but my birth story was short and sweet, and I think it was perfect though. It happened the way it was supposed to happen. The adjustment at home has been a little rough, but it was such a sweet moment when the kids got to come in to meet her too on that first day. First baby I've ever had overnight also. So that was a new experience for us as well. But thanks for listening to my birth story. If you have any questions, I've given birth in every aspect, every way. I've had preemies, full term. I've had everything you could think of. So I'm always here if you have any questions also. So